Hello and welcome to the Product Biz Podcast. My name is Monica Little and I'm your host. And we are on season 2 in 2024. And we are talking more about mindset, more about performance, more about what really is underneath the hood and underneath the surface of being a successful small business owner and growing a successful small business. And I'm really excited today because we are talking about beating burnout and igniting performance with special guest Jimmy Burroughes. So running a successful business, like you're going to hear us say, and you're going to hear me say on season 2 of the Product Biz Podcast, it's less about what you do and more about who you are, what you prioritize, and how you hold your energy. Think of it this way. You can have the best product in the world, the best strategy in the world, but if you're burnt out, then you won't get too far because you'll be exhausted and overwhelmed to even be able to bring that strategy to life or to bring that amazing product in front of more people. Becoming a high performer, which means how you manage yourself, your energy, your priorities, is the only thing that will take you as far as you want your business to go. And today's special guest, Jimmy, will be sharing with you how to beat burnout and ignite that high performance. Jimmy is an ex-Army officer, MBA grad, and former corporate high-flyer, now on a mission to change the way leaders create bottom-line results without burning out. He is the author of the Beat Burnout, Ignite Performance book, and he is just a wealth of knowledge on how to really take care of yourself to be able to take care of your business. So we're going to talk about how to become a high performer, how to prevent burnout by focusing on your purpose, a mindset of abundance, prioritizing connection, exploration, and downtime. But also we're going to talk about how to know if you're on the verge of burnout, depending on if you're feeling anxious, exhausted, isolated, overwhelmed, unmotivated, and what to do if you're feeling unmotivated with the projects you have going on with your business, plus so much more. During this conversation, I honestly was just, and you're going to hear me say this, just nodding my head over and over and over because everything Jimmy said is to a T, concepts that I have followed in my own business, my own life. And this is what it's about 100% of the way. So I'm excited to bring Jimmy on so you can hear from him and learn from him. So without further ado, let's get into it. Well, welcome, Jimmy, to the Product Biz Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thanks, Monica. It's so wonderful to be here.
Yeah, and this is going to be a fun conversation because we know each other through our business coach that we both work with, James Wedmore. And I'm just excited to have someone who's not in the product business space, but has a ton of knowledge that is applicable to small business owners, entrepreneurs. And I think the expertise that you're going to bring is going to be fantastic to the listeners. So before we dive into what we're going to chat about today, I would love for you just to introduce yourself to the audience. Let us know who you are, what you do, what you're passionate about, and why you're here today.
Sure. So I'm Jimmy. I run a business called JBL. We're a boutique high-performance consultancy working around the world with organizations. And essentially what we do is we help really overtired, overwhelmed, overworked people become more impactful and more effective. And so our little team gets into businesses, whether they're solopreneurs, whether they're entrepreneurs, whether they're startups, or whether they're 12-figure organizations. And we sit down with people and we help them understand what it is they're doing that might be helping them, what it is they're doing that might not be helping them or holding them back, and how to become even more effective based on what we've learned over the last 6 years.
Yeah, I think this is such a great topic because I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like more and more and more people are starting their own businesses, but also those people who are starting their own businesses, more and more and more of them are actually burnt out and really overwhelmed and really trying to do too much. So do you see that very frequently, and why does that happen?
Yeah, do you know what? I was nodding my head and thinking, yes, you're so right. But then I was actually thinking, maybe you're wrong. Maybe actually a lot of people are starting their own businesses because they're burned out, because they're tired of the corporate thing. And so they're like, oh, the grass must be greener on the other side. And then you and I both know that actually running your business is probably one of the hardest things you can do and requires more of you than any job will ever require. And so having some techniques and some ideas and some concepts that can stop you burning out is really useful. And so, I think that whatever is going on in the world today, having a good toolkit at your disposal is key. And most of us are kind of making it up as we go. So to have somebody who's immersed in this world ideally sharing today will be, I think, a little bit useful, but also start to turn on some light bulbs in people's heads for maybe things they're doing that resonate. They go, oh, that's why I'm really hurting right now.
Yeah, and I would love for you to share with us, what are those top reasons of how burnout, how it happens, why it happens, how it shows up. What do you see as one of the actual root causes or multiple root causes of why people are getting burnt out?
Yeah, there's a lot of causes, but if we keep it nice and high level and we can dive down into various pieces, essentially it's when your ability to create an outcome is smaller than the responsibilities you have. Ooh. And so when you are trying to run a business, you're trying to go to lots of meetings, you're trying to maybe grow a team or run a team, you're trying to do all of these things, you're trying to be everywhere all at once, and you don't have the capacity or skills to do that, then it can really start to build into a sense of, we call it cognitive friction or dissonance, but essentially your brain is in friction with itself and it's starting to struggle, and that burns a lot of energy. And then what we see second is people who are living in what we call their energy overdraft. So just like in your bank, if you go below zero, you're in your overdraft. A lot of people who we see burning out, they're living in their energy overdraft all the time. And they're waiting for the weekend or the vacation to pay back what they owe. And over time, it becomes harder and harder to pay back. And so they find themselves in this mental whirlpool, like when you pull the plug out of a sink or a bath and you see the whirlpool. Initially, it's not too bad. But by the time you're right down in that spiral, we call it the spiral of burnout, then it's really hard to swim your way out of that one or to wrest yourself back out of it. So you need to do something different. And so what we do is we catch people before they fall, and we keep them working, we keep them paying the mortgage, we keep them feeding the family, we keep them engaged and happy, and we get them back on track.
Yeah, I love how you broke it down to, I think you said like friction and then the energy overdraft. And it's interesting when you talk about burnout to break it into those two components, because when I hear burnout, I'm like, yeah, burnout is just when you're exhausted, you're doing too much. But hearing you break it down to those two ways of overdrafting your energy or just a ton of friction and your brain basically getting brain fried and then continuing to expend energy. And then you wonder why things don't progress or don't get much further. And I know for me personally, the friction part has been a big one where it's just like, you want to do more, you want to do more, you want to do more, but you get to a point where you can't even make decisions because you have decision fatigue from being burnt out. And the simplest decision, even sometimes of like, what do I want to eat for dinner, can be really challenging when you're burnt out and have been like struggling all week long. And that's been something that I've been really working on over the past few months just to really help alleviate that. Because like you said, running your own business is definitely harder than any other job. So for someone who is experiencing like the energy overdraft or the friction, or like you said, catching them before they really get there, what are the tools that you provide, or what guidance can you really give people so they don't end up going down this whirlpool of burnout?
Yeah, there's so much stuff that we can offer, and we try to provide as much as we can for free as well. So we have a blog which is focused on essentially what things you can do to be a high performer. We have a podcast called The High Performance Leader. So they're both available for free. But probably most excitingly is earlier this year, we released a book called Beat Burnout, Ignite Performance. And the book is made up of 5 chapters with about 3 sections per chapter. And it's kind of like a recipe book. So if you wanted to make a super yummy cake, then you would want to open your beautiful cookery book and see a picture of the yummiest cake that you've ever seen with the icing and the sprinkles on top and whatever it is that makes you happy about chocolate cakes. And then you'd want to know all the things you need to make that cake and all the steps you've got to follow to achieve making the cake. And so what we did was we wrote a book that essentially does the same thing for making you a high performance leader. So if you want to achieve the things that we've identified are the 5 key parameters of being a high performer, if you don't have those 5 parameters, you're high likelihood of burning out. If you do have those parameters, you've got a high likelihood of success. And then we tell you how to actually do them. So down to the brass tacks of sit down, write this, think about this, ask this of your team, talk to your stakeholders, whatever it might be. These are the steps to follow, and lo and behold, you end up with a high performance chocolate cake. And that's what we're trying to do.
I love it. And before we hit record, you mentioned this acronym AEIOU. Is this part of the book or is this something separate?
This is something even newer. The book focuses on a different beautiful mnemonic called PACE. Slightly ironic. If you want to prevent burnout, you've got to pace yourself. So we came up with this mnemonic PACE, which breaks down those 5 key parameters. And I can walk through them at a high level, and again, we can dip into a couple of them in more detail, which I think would be important. But the P for PACE stands for purpose. And when we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, one of the things we find is they don't have a clear purpose for why they're doing what they're doing. They just started it because they wanted to get out of what they were doing before. And often you find with entrepreneurs, they're running towards something or they're running away from something. And your purpose is what gets you through the really hard times. You can't be, I need to make money. If your personal purpose is about making money, then you're probably going to fail. So you ideally need to have a service-based purpose. Whether you have a product or service business, you need a service-based purpose. I want to bring the best possible product to shape or change people's lives, or I'm doing this for my family. It's of service for whatever it is. Because then when you wake up that morning, and I remember when I was burned out and I sat on the bed, I'm like, I don't know if I can go to work today. I don't know if I've got this in me. You go, but I have a purpose for doing this. Equally, as your business starts to grow, having a purpose for your team that everybody is aligned on is critical. And we see so many times that the entrepreneur believes that they're very clear on the purpose of what they're doing, but then they hire a few people who aren't super clear. And so we get this misalignment of priorities and resource allocation and time spent and energy spent, which then gets frustrating for everybody involved. So sitting down and having the team purpose conversation, why does our team exist? What are we trying to achieve? Is really key. Mm-hmm. The second letter, A, in the mnemonic is all about abundance. And I know that you're super into this space, so I thought it would be a really good one for us to go into. But for us, the opposite of abundance is scarcity. And so many entrepreneurs, when they're starting up, are operating from a scarcity space. There's not enough to go around. I'm going to run out of money. Nobody's going to buy from me. It's going to be scary. I'm worried about it. And that makes it really hard to be awesome. And so we know that if you're going to be a high performer, you've got to focus on being positive and abundant. And that's not painting on a smile. That's about believing and knowing that if you set your vibrational frequency to the right level, that you will attract the right type of stuff. You will bring in the audience that you want, or you will attract the customers that you desire, or you will connect with like-minded entrepreneurs like we connected because our frequencies are aligned. You can't be desperate. You can't be needy. And you certainly can't be sell, push, push, push. It's actually, you've got to just open yourself up energetically. And it sounds a little bit woo-woo and fluffy. But actually, the more science they research into this idea of being abundant, then it really starts to resonate for high-performance leadership and high-performance results. It's also really hard to be creative when you're scarce. What we know is that the creative part of the brain switches off when we're feeling scared. We just resort back to what we know or what we've always done, the patterns that we have. They're called heuristics. And so we need to get ourselves into an abundant mindset. And really simple example of things you can do: go sit in nature for 6 minutes. Go for a 6-minute walk. I don't know why they're both 6 minutes, but there's a really cool little scientific test called the Guilford Alternative Usage Test. And it said, basically, if we give you this one simple thing, what can you do with it? How many things can you think of? And they saw a 60% increase in alternative usage creation from a 6-minute walk. So you need to be abundant. You need to get out there and feel it. The C in our PACE model is all about connection. And you need to connect with learning. Obviously, you need to grow your skills. You need to be connecting with professional development. Also connect with your competition, because they might be ahead of you and you could learn some stuff, whether it's connecting with them on Instagram or LinkedIn or Etsy or whichever platforms you're using, or whether it's actually going to networking events and conferences. Connect with people, because you absorb osmotically, you absorb some cool stuff. But equally, your business will only grow to the level of problems you can solve and the quality of your network. So if you're hanging around with naysayers and poo-pooers who are, telling you should go and get a traditional job, you're probably not going to be as high performer as if you're connecting with amazing people in business coaching environments or networking groups or whatever you might want to do. Nearly there. The E is all around exploring. There's a I can't remember who said it, but to paraphrase it, you're going to fail. And if you don't fail, you're not trying hard enough. And so you've got to have this exploratory mindset. You've got to be curious to try things. And if you're working on purpose, then it's much easier to explore, because like, I need to make this work. I've got to make this work because I'm making a difference for somebody else and I'm excited about doing that. So sure, let's turn it from blue to red this week and see what happens. Or let's try green this week and see what happens. Or whatever it is that you do, mix it up a bit, try some new things, because you never know. You'll get one of two outcomes. You'll get a lesson or you'll get a win. Either are fantastic because you're still ahead of the person who doesn't try. So explore more, try some things. And equally with that explore more mindset is done is always better than perfect. So just stick it out there, see what happens. The course or the offering or the product that you spend 3 years perfecting might not sell because you haven't got it out there and got some feedback on it. So just explore people's ideas. You've got to try and get it out there and really explore. And then our final one, which is probably the one you would naturally think of should be the first one when it comes to burning out, is downtime. And as an entrepreneur, I'm sure most of us have got super tired, super worn out, super maybe even feeling burned out. And so we automatically think, the way to solve burnout is to take some time off, is to stop being the hamster on the wheel, because it's really easy to be a hamster on a wheel, right? And so we take some vacation and then we come back and nothing's changed when we come back. And the analogy we use is if you're standing in a thunderstorm and you go inside and dry off and come out again into that same thunderstorm, you're going to get wet. So in your business, if you haven't fixed the things which we use by P, A, C, and E, if you haven't fixed those things first, taking a vacation is not going to solve the woes of your business. So you need to focus on getting them right and stop repeating the same mistakes. Take some downtime, think about what you're doing, and go back with a new, curious, exploratory approach. The final piece of that downtime is really pay attention to how you're taking downtime. We have two categories of downtime habits we use. One is called creative, one is called consumptive. Now, most of your audience are probably going to be highly creative people, but our consumptive ones to be wary of are taking drugs, taking alcohol, watching Netflix, eating. They're all consumptive, whereas creative could be cooking, dancing, networking, whatever it might be. Try and think of something that's creative, because that helps your brain shift around all the bad stuff that's going on inside there. And there's a lot of science behind that, but there's basically you get biological byproducts, but also mental resonant byproducts that start to make you feel a bit down and depressed. So if you can fix P, A, C, and E, then do D really well, then you're potentially going to be the high performer and not burn out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That was such a great breakdown. And as you were saying them, I'm just nodding my head over and over because I can agree and relate, and how you explained everything is just so spot on. And I am one of the biggest believers that what you just talked about is the make or break on if you're going to grow a successful business. And strategy is important, but if these PACED, the purpose, abundance, connection, exploring, downtime, if that isn't there, you can have all the strategy that you want, but you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to call it quits. It's not going to work. You're going to want to give up. You're going to go down the rabbit hole of, like you said, hanging out with the naysayers who think that everything isn't possible and nothing is doable. And of course, your business isn't going to be successful. So I absolutely
100%.
love what you said. And I encourage everyone to listen to that a second time. I didn't want to interrupt you because I'm like, this is so good. This is spot on. Let's keep going because this is perfect what people need to hear. And I'm such a big believer of managing energy, managing your mindset for the things that you said, and how that can really change your business, but also change your life. Because it's not just about business when you start to incorporate these things. You start to actually trickle into your life.
Yeah, and whether we are working in a 12-figure corporate organization or we're working with a business that's in somebody's spare room, we're still people. And this is, I think, something that we forget when we become entrepreneurs, is that we have to be perfect robots who just deliver value all the time and create magic and sell. And we're not. We're mums and dads and aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters and parents, and we've got hobbies, we've got friends. You are a whole package, magical package of stuff. And to just put all that aside and go, no, I've just got to focus on my business, is surely like everything's going to start to creep back in, whether you want it or not. So why not embrace that And we always talk about the reason we're successful in big organizations is because we do the things that other people don't do. When you do high performance in other businesses, they go, right, let's do goal setting and strategy and KPIs and, all the hard stuff. And I'm like, no, because you've got a bunch of people who work together. So let's get them trusting and connecting with each other. It's way more impactful. And all the other stuff will just work itself out.
100%. Love it so much. Okay, that was a great segue to my next question, because this was a little bit more about the mindset and managing energy component of things. But I do want to pick your brain also on the aspect of burnout and also not being a high performer from maybe working on the wrong things or not focusing on the right activities or not being able to let go of tasks. If you do have like your first VA or your first employee or that first person who's helping you. So talk to me more on the tactical side of where people reach burnout from those areas or other areas that come to mind for you, and how people can really start to offset that so that isn't what also takes them down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, there's probably two ways we can come at this. Number one would be to start with purpose. Everybody as an entrepreneur uses the word should. I should be blah, blah, blah. And I should be selling more. I should be doing my social media. I should be talking to more people. And when we should ourselves, we're immediately into a scarce mindset because I'm not doing it, so I have to do it, versus I want to do it. But equally, we're not really clear on why it's important, what value it adds, and if we have the capacity to do it. So one of the things we always recommend if you're an entrepreneur and you're feeling a bit of a load is to write your task list, first of all. What are all the things you're working on today, this week, this month? And then to align with it, purpose. What's the purpose and the value of this activity? So the purpose might be, let's use social media as a good example. I need to post 3 times a week. Okay, wrong. I want to post 3 times a week. The purpose of that? Well, the purpose is to connect with my audience, not to try and sell, but I want to connect to my audience, build, help them know, like, and trust me. So they feel good about the relationship we have. Great. So we've got a purpose. What value does that create? Well, when they know, like, and trust me, then I can start to show them some of the products that I have or the services that I offer, and they're more likely to engage in a conversation. So immediately we've got a very clear purpose and a very clear value. The third piece is capacity. Have I actually got capacity to do this? If not, then either something else that has less purpose and value needs to be taken off my list, so this can be on my list, or this comes off my list, or this is delegated. And this, I think, is the entrepreneur's trap, is we go, I just need to do all these things. I should be doing all of them, so I'll just do them all. And what we end up doing is doing all of them badly. So list out your tasks, purpose, value, and capacity, and then work out if it's a priority or not, and whether you can stop doing it or whether you can delegate it. The other trap, and the second piece of this then, is the trap that we fall into. We go, I can finally hire my first VA. Here you go, do all the things I don't like doing. And we just hospital past them, the things we don't like doing. And we see this so many times in any business, whether it's the new employee who you've just hired, whether it's your first VA, or whether it's you've partnered up with somebody in a joint venture and you've decided to go in together as partners, and you go, cool, you do the finance and I'll do the sales. That's a common split. Or you do the marketing and I'll do the manufacturing. And then we don't talk to each other. And we don't explain expectations of what's needed. And we don't talk through the goals of what we're trying to achieve. And we don't get aligned. And that can be then meaning that I'm working really hard on something and Monica's working really hard on her part, but we're not aligned. So we're putting all this effort in. It's like it's like being in the same rowing boat, but rowing in opposite directions as hard as we can. And that causes fatigue and burnout and frustration and exhaustion. And we see this so many times in entrepreneurial startups. Is somebody starts a business with a great vision, hire a few people, and that vision gets eroded because everybody's not clear on what they're doing. And then they all end up working on the wrong things because they haven't got purpose, value, and capacity sorted out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that. So one thing that I want to go back to is when you were talking about what is the purpose behind what you're doing? Because I think that is something that so many people miss, and something that I had a big conversation with my Product Biz Academy members, but I use the word intention. And this goes back to what you were saying earlier too, on if your intention or your purpose is just to make money, that's the only reason why you're posting on social media, that's the only reason you're sending that email, that's the only reason you're doing X, Y, Z, then the energy behind it number one, people are going to tell, because either it's going to come off really salesy, or because you're not going to put that much energy into it from the place of why you actually want to do this, from the place of service. And instead it's just, let me hurry up and create this Instagram post just because I need to make some sales. Let me hurry up and send this email to a store that I want to get my products into just to make some sales. So I love how you mentioned asking yourself the purpose, because I think that's the biggest thing. When your intention switches to, let me see if this turns into a partnership. Let me see how my Instagram followers engage with this, if they connect, if they resonate, if I'm teaching them something, then the byproduct is going to be the sales. But as soon as you start to flip it to actually focus on the purpose and the value and the intention, your energy is going to be different. The people who are on the receiving end are going to notice that, and then you're going to have that awesome end result of what you actually wanted in the first place, but coming from a much better place. So I loved how you mentioned that. And one thing that I think people struggle with, because you mentioned the purpose and the value and the capacity. And if you don't have the capacity, then it needs to either go down on the prioritization list, or it needs to go to an employee or something like that. How do you talk to people who struggle to prioritize? And maybe this comes back to purpose and value, but just talk me through maybe a couple of examples of if someone's like, well, I have this list and I feel like everything is equally as important.
Yeah. So you could look at it through lots of different lenses, and there's heaps of management consulting models out there that can help you, segment your priority list. Let's use two really simple ones. The one I like is effort and impact. So you literally draw like a window shape with a cross in the middle, and you have high effort, high impact, high effort, low impact, and so on. And then you start to drop your tasks in. And what we ideally want to do is have the impact boxes where our tasks are going, because nobody wants to be doing stuff that you have to work really hard on and it doesn't really make any difference, or you have to work really hard on and it does make a difference. Ideally, what we want is low effort stuff that makes a massive impact, and high effort stuff that makes a massive impact. They're the places we want to play. And your low effort, high impact tasks that you've got are what I would call the next 30 days worth of work. It's like, how do I get some wins on the board? Because as an entrepreneur, you've got to keep consistency, you've got to keep going. Your high effort, high impact is your 1 year to 2 year strategy or your plan. So, I'm going to build a new website, or I'm going to make a partnership, or I'm going to try a whole new platform, or whatever it might be. But that's a longer play, takes more work, but it'll be higher impact down the track. So it's almost like keep the wheels turning while building the next bigger wheel. And I think those are the ones that people often get missed on, is they just put everything in a checklist or a long list, and they don't think about, well, what's the impact of this? Equally, if we go back to the previous example, the value created. So if I do this, it creates this amount of value. If I do this, it creates this amount of value. Which should I put my energy into? Probably the bigger value one. The lower value one, maybe I don't need to do, or it will be superseded if I just wait 3 weeks. And often we see this as people are doing things that go, oh, I've got to get this done by today. Why? Oh, because I said I put it in my diary for today. Cool. But the bigger thing you've got to have done by tomorrow is way more important. So focus on that one. And the other thing might not be needed tomorrow. So, let's see.
Yeah, I think that's such great feedback. And I think what happens is a lot of times we're just on autopilot. Like we start the workday and we just have this list and we go one by one, or we kind of pick the things that are easy just to cross them off. But everything that you're saying is just actually assessing why you're doing what you're doing. And what is it leading to? What impact does it have? Instead of just waking up, doing the same thing over and over and over, creating this habit of just autopilot, getting into it and not really stopping to be like, why am I working on this? And what's the reason and what's the outcome?
So we see many entrepreneurs who are the hamster on the wheel, and the faster they sprint, the faster the wheel goes. And you've got to have the peace of mind to go, I need to get off this wheel and look at the wheel and work out why I'm doing all these things. Because if I don't, I'm just going to be sprinting and sprinting and sprinting until the next vacation. And then I'm going to lie on the beach and pass out. And you said something that really resonated with me as well, is, when we're working on these things, it can be really easy to fall into the dopamine junkie department. And dopamine is a chemical that's in your brain that is highly addictive. It's like heroin. And we become addicted to ticking things off our list, because the excitement of being able to tick the next thing off the list is like a hit of heroin. Not that I've ever done heroin, but what I imagine it being heroin being like. And so it is, you as an entrepreneur, you get into the task of, I'll just do a quick Instagram reel, or I'll do something really simple. I'll make another pin or whatever. And that's not the meaningful thing that's going to shift the dial for your business. So that might be a low effort, low impact task, but you've got to have the high impact stuff bubbling away as well. Otherwise, you're just ticking things off a list just to get your dopamine hit. And that's not going to make a difference to your business, unfortunately. Rarely do drug addicts end up successful.
Yeah. And I want to ask you about that, because I actually had a conversation with a client recently, and we were talking about that in a similar way. And she said this one sentence that really has been in the back of my mind, and I want to hear your opinion on it. She was saying that if something takes time, that means I'm not good at it, which means that I want to just do something else, or I want to try something different, or I get annoyed that I'm not good at it right away. And it's kind of relating to what you're saying of, it's not that instant dopamine hit of being good at it, crossing it off, being done. It's going to take some energies for time, or some time, or it's going to take sitting down and working on it for a couple hours. So what do you say to the person who's struggling with that, of saying, well, if this takes time, that means I'm not good at it, I'm annoyed, I don't want to do this anymore? How do you really walk someone through that type of scenario?
The first question I would ask is, why are you doing it? Because if they're like, because everybody else is doing it, or because I should do it, then I would want to get to the root cause, because I always have there's always a tension here for me. There's number one, nothing worth having is easy to get. So if this is a high impact high value task, and you're just learning, you're starting as a beginner, then of course it's going to take time, and you've got to pick up momentum and skills and try some stuff and learn and graze your knees and pick yourself up and eventually win. Equally, if it's something that's low value and not in your skill set, then why are you even doing it? There's some beautiful research from Zenger and Folkman, who talk all about strengths-based development. And, I am not a mathematician or an accountant, so I don't play there. I have a really well-paid accountant who does the accounting of my business, because there's no point in me spending weeks trying to do my tax returns and my accounting returns when somebody else can do it in a day. So I would also say, why are you doing it? And are you the best person to be doing it? And if you're not, if you don't know why you're doing it, and you're not the best person, why spend all that energy? Equally, if you are the best person, but you're just a beginner, then do spend all that energy. So as I say, there's always a tension in the argument based on the context that you're sitting in.
Beautiful. I love that feedback. Awesome. Okay, cool. I want to switch gears, because like I mentioned before we were chatting, you mentioned this AEIOU mnemonic, if that's how you say that word.
Yes.
Do you want to dive into that and share what that is?
Sure. So AEIOU is the signs and symptoms that you and I would notice if we were starting to feel burned out. And it's something that we've been creating in sort of response to what should I look for? Because I was talking people through my spectacular burnout in 2017 and what it was like for me to go through. And then we wanted to be able to offer people have you got this? Is this happening to you? So A is all around anxiety. And, what I would say is anxiety is that fight or flight response, constantly living in that state of anxiousness. And anxiousness is when you're worrying about something. And whether it's something that you've just done, oh my God, what if that goes wrong? I can't believe I did that. I'm so uptight about it. And what are they going to think? And everybody's going to hate me. Or it's worrying about the future. Oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to deal with tomorrow. And I've got to do all these things. And my task list just keeps growing and blah, blah, blah. So that's the anxiety piece. The next one is exhaustion. So burnout, a lot of people think that burnout is the new trendy word for just being stressed out or tired out. And it isn't. Burnout is a lot more than that. You need AEIOU. But if you're exhausted, that's one of the signs to think about. And I remember when I was going through the build up to my burnout, I would wake up every morning feeling like I hadn't slept. And I was only sleeping 4 hours a night anyway, due to the nature of the job I was doing. But I found myself in a position where I would just be exhausted all day, fueling myself on caffeine. And then because I was so buzzed by the end of the day, calming down with bottles of wine. And that really caused some challenges for both, biologically, but also mentally. Is it just exhausted mentally, going into meetings like, why am I even here? What am I trying to do today? How do I make a decision? That can be a real challenge. I is all about isolated. And you've probably experienced this, Monica, in your previous life as well. But when you get really stressed, Are you the person who reaches out to everybody, or are you the person who just withdraws and like, I'm just going to get this done, head down, make my checklist and just plow through it? And we often see with people who have a high tendency for burning out is that they isolate themselves. Equally, when I was in my burnout, I was being forcibly isolated by all my peers were burning out. They were leaving the business. They were deciding to throw in the towel because the organization we were working was very dysfunctional. And so I was becoming more and more isolated as a champion for change when all the people around me were like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go. And then it was like, oh, Jimmy, you're still here. Can you take on this project as well? And can you take on this project as well? And you become the island and you're like, God, I've got so much to do. I just need to get my head down and push everybody else away and just leave me to do this. So if that comes up for you, then it can be a challenge. O is all about being overwhelmed. So if you're truly overwhelmed, so many things coming at you, so many tasks, you are the hamster on the wheel. You can't even believe how many things you've got to do, and you have no idea how you're going to fit them into the day. And that's starting to cause that little knot in your stomach and the panic feeling. Watch out. And then the final one is unmotivated. And this comes in two pieces. The first one is I really don't see the point anymore. There's no point in me going to work. There's no point in me running this business anymore. It's stupid. I'm done. The other one we see in a lot of organizations is there's no point in me. I really want to try, but there's kind of no point in putting maximum effort in because they're just going to change it anyway, or the strategy will shift, or we'll end up heading in a different direction. So I've been burned 3 times already in the last 12 months. They'll just restructure anyway. So no, screw it. I'm not going to bother. And so what we say is if you're seeing 3 or more of those AEIOU symptoms, then we'd love to have a conversation with you because you're on the track to burnout. You're in the plug hole. Mm-hmm. If you've got 2 or less, that's being busy. That's being stressed out. That's being tired out. But 3 or more is really concerning, and recommend you reach out, or at least reach out to our resources and get some help.
Yeah, and while you were explaining that, you mentioned a little bit about your story, which I had a light bulb of like, oh, I didn't even ask that at the beginning. So can you tell us, after hearing a little bit of what you just said of some of the symptoms that you were experiencing, which has led you to do probably the work that you do now, but can you tell me the story of how you started helping people with this, maybe a little bit more about your background too, that really led you to be passionate about sharing this with others?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I left the military, I went into a corporate HR career and did reasonably well through some larger organizations over in New Zealand. And when I got to kind of senior manager level, I decided that HR was not the right track for me. And I wanted to be a GM because I had these aspirations to be the CEO of an organization and was definitely sort of, en route to achieve that. And so I moved into a GM role at an organization that was going through a really exciting period of transformation, or it looked exciting from the outside. And that transformation was essentially taking on an 8-figure business, running a team of about 40 people who were responsible for attracting customers from all over the world. I think we were operating in 81 countries at that point. And so my job was to run and restructure that team. Unbeknown to me, at the same time, the organization decided to completely transform the way that they engage with customers. They also decided to outsource their customer acquisition platform to an outsourced provider with no due diligence, with no preparation. They also decided to have a major argument with a number of the senior staff who were client-facing about how they did their business. So there was massive union action going on at the same time. They decided to embed a new computerized system at the same time. And Jimmy, being one of the 7 GMs in the business, was basically dropped into each of these projects because I was a subject matter expert for my piece of the business in the wider organization. Over the course of the 2.5 years I was there, I reported to 3 different members of the executive team because they kept leaving. Mm-hmm. So you had that additional pressure of trying to, make a good impression. And I was also traveling 10 days out of 14 overseas. So I was constantly on flights, in hotels, would be waking up at 4 a.m. to write board papers or reply to emails before a full day of meetings back to back until 7, going to a dinner with a client, and then jumping on a plane or a train to get to the next city to be able to repeat the thing the next morning. And so over time, started to get AEIOU, started to be always anxious and worrying about, oh my God, what's next? And the next restructure and the next transformation. Was exhausted constantly, never took a day off in 2.5 years. So even when I was back in the UK visiting parents and family, would work through the night so I could be with them in the day. So it was always just this intense pace that I was existing at. And I remember sitting on the bed one morning, I woke up, I drank a couple of bottles of wine the night before to try and calm down the racing brain. Woke up, sat on the bed feeling pretty rough. And I just said to myself, Jimmy, I don't know if you can keep doing this. I think you might kill yourself if you keep going at this pace. I was 25 kilos heavier than I am now. I was living this really unhealthy lifestyle. And I just thought to myself, I don't know if you can keep doing this. So I quit. I worked 3 months notice. And by the time the 3 months were up, I was pretty much a burned out husk of a human being. So I decided to take 6 months off and try and work out why that happened to me. And I've always been quite self-aware and introspective. So I thought, how did this happen? Surely I shouldn't have got myself into this space. I'm a smart, capable individual. And so I thought I'll go traveling and find myself. So I went off to Latin America for a couple of years and was traveling with a digital nomad organization. And I was kept on bumping into all these people. And they were the former CEO, the former GM, the former sales director of decent companies, big organizations. And they burned out as well. And they were trying to find out what had happened to them. And so I would talk to them. I'd say, what happened? And there was this pattern that kept on popping up around the frustrations and the annoyances and the symptoms and the signs. And eventually a couple of these people recovered. They went back to work and they said, can you come in and do some learning and development leadership programs, keynote speaking with our organizations? And we're talking, large organizations at this point. And I started doing it, and these programs really resonated. And eventually I thought, there's a business here. There's a consulting organization here. And so we set up just under 7 years ago. Initially just me. Now we're a team we just hired our 10th person this week. And now we work globally to basically go into organizations. We tell our story in a lot more detail than that. And we find out that story is resonating with a lot of people. And then we say, okay, and there's a way forward. And this is how we do it. And we have a program called the Ways of Working program, which is basically a 3 to 6 month partnership with that business where we help a team of people change. And next year we'll be launching a new program called the High Impact Leader program, which is going to be a 6-week commitment initially, and then a year's worth of community access and library access with all the resources that we built up over the last 6-7 years to help people get off this overworked, overtired, overwhelmed bandwagon and make a difference. So that's what we do.
Yeah, I loved hearing your story. And I think although definitely at different ends of the spectrum, I think a lot of small business owners who are listening can probably relate. So how you said you were working on a ton of projects, you were the subject matter expert for 7 different projects happening in the organization. As small business owners, we're the one person wearing all the hats, so we can relate to that. It was interesting how you also said that you had a ton of different new managers that you were reporting to because there was so much change in the organization. Well, you can think about that from a small business point of view of when there's a new manager, usually there's a shift in priorities. So how often are we ourselves shifting our priorities, changing to do a different project, running from one to another, changing strategy, and shifting in that same way, right? Even when you said waking up at 7 a.m., working until 7, 8, 9 p.m., not taking any days off, your health deteriorating. I mean, that's things that so many small business owners can relate to. So I thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And I loved how you shared the symptoms, the AEIOU, and you also shared, which is the symptoms of burnout. And you also shared PACE, so purpose, abundance, connection, exploring, and downtime on how to kind of prevent burnout, right?
How to get back, how to come back, yeah.
How to come back, yeah. So really what I want to end with, which you kind of were getting into right at the end of what you were saying too, is if someone is feeling AEIOU, 3 or more of those symptoms, what should they do? How can they work with you? Anything else? I'd love for you to say the name of your book once more, but give us either ways people can work with you or tactical other things that people can do if they're I'm in this space now and I need some support.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing is to know that you're not alone, and we get it. All of the people that work in our business have all been successful business people in their own right and have got a passion and drive to help people like you if you're struggling. So first of all, don't be afraid that you're on your own here, the only one going through this. You're not a failure. There's the system that we're working in is essentially creating this for us. And so we know how to help you through that. We want to get you off the ledge. We want to keep you paying the mortgage, keep you feeding the family, keep you enjoying what you do and not having to take 2 years off to work out why. So that's the first piece. The best way to reach us is probably either through LinkedIn or Instagram. Both of them, you can find me, Jimmy Burroughes, or on Instagram, Jimmy B Leadership. If you are more a website person, then go to jimmyburroughes.com. And in there, you can find links to our podcast. We're on all major platforms, The High Performance Leader, or you can grab the book. And for Monica, just as a thank you to you for inviting us, we wanted to offer all of the listeners just a VIP coupon code for 25% off the book. So it brings it down to about $7, I think. And they just need to type in VIP25 and they'll get the book for 25% off, because we know it's important. If that is too much, if you're literally bootstrapping your business, we know that purpose is super important to get right first. So we actually give away chapter 1 of the book for free. If you go to the website as well, click book and you can grab that for free.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jimmy. It was a pleasure having you. I took so many notes just learning from you. And I just appreciate how you put it all into perspective, because I think these are all components and feelings and emotions and triggers and things that people have worked through. But hearing you talk about it from like a high level is just going to help people get some clarity and understanding and hopefully some next steps for them to continue to prioritize themselves before any of this crazy burnout happens, which I think is so common. So thank you for coming here. Thank you for your work that you do. Thank you for sharing this with everyone. I'll be sure to link everything in the show notes so the person listening can find out more about you and get access to the book and anything else that they need. But thank you so much for being a guest here on the Product Biz Podcast.
Amazing. Thank you for having me.